Hey everybody, Rick Jones here, and I want to welcome you to my channel. Now, this channel is going to start off with a 4-part series. We're going to be exploring some gym basics and some principles for muscle growth for beginners. Now, let me start you off with this. Most beginners actually fail because they don't understand key basics. So let's fix that. I want to walk you through today what are some basic definitions. So let's talk about sets, reps, as well as rest. Then we're going to move on to a term called progressive overload. So you may have heard that here and there, but we can take some time to talk about it. I want to also introduce to you just something simple in terms of just a gym routine to start you off. So on that, let's begin with the definitions. When you have a workout routine, you're going to start off with something simple called exercises. And these exercises have to be performed in a certain order of your choosing. Now, when you're going to start off with your first exercise, you're going to have to keep in mind that there's a certain amount of times that you have to redo the full movement. In other words, reps, or which is short for repetitions. So you're going to start off with, example, a bicep curl. So for a bicep curl, the full movement that you're going to go ahead and perform starts off with the muscle being relaxed. You're going to then move on to the concentric phase where you're going to contract the muscle, hold it for the isometric phase, and then after that, go ahead and relax the muscle in the eccentric phase. So that what I just performed is 1 rep. When you do a few of those, say 6 to 8, and then you stop to take a breather, which is your rest, that will be called 1 set. So typically when you're going to have your workout routine, you're going to have a certain amount of sets that you like to perform and a certain amount of rep or repetitions for each of those sets. Now keep in mind, like I said, for the rest, that's something that you cannot forget to do because in between time, your muscles are going to need to rest a little bit in order for you to go ahead and perform the next set. Let's talk about progressive overload. So progressive overload is a term that is actually key for muscle building. Now, over time, you're going to be performing your exercises. And week after week, in order for there to be muscle growth and for you to destroy those muscle fibers, you have to progressively train your muscle to build it stronger and stronger. So that just simply means over time, just increasing the amount of weights that you do per set. Now, this weight increase has to be gradual depending on the muscles that you're working on. So larger muscles, you can go ahead and increase the weight by larger amounts. For instance, your legs, your thighs. But smaller muscles, you may want to go through smaller increments. And for instance, your biceps, right? So progressive overload is going to be something that's key for your muscle growth journey. Make sure to, I would say as a beginner, if you want to go ahead and increase, the 10% rule usually applies and fits for most of the exercises that you'd like to perform. All right, so another thing that you have to keep in mind is your rep ranges. So your rep ranges are going to go, well, let's start off with what are rep ranges, right? So rep ranges are very simple. We're going to start off with, for instance, when you're going to have a set that you'd like to perform, the range is going to vary. So you can go up to, starting from 6 reps, and you can even go all the way up to 15. Now, for muscle growth, what really works is if you're able to target between the 6 to 10 rep range. If you can stay within those ranges, I guarantee you that you're going to be able to see muscle growth. If you go over 10, then we're looking more towards endurance training, and that's more for toning the muscle. But for muscle growth itself, you really want to stick in, like I said, the 6 to 10 rep range, because that's where you're going to really make sure to destroy those muscle fibers properly. Now, we went through a few key basics. We talked about reps, sets, rest in terms of definitions. We touched upon progressive overload, and we even talked about rep ranges. So now for a sample routine, what you'd like to do is very simple. I mean, just a split can be easy enough to start off with as a beginner. When I had started off quite some time ago, this is a little under 20 years from now, I performed a split 4. So a split 4 is very simple. We're talking about splitting your workout routine for 4 major muscle groups. So you'll start off with day 1, which will be the focus on your chest and your triceps. Day 2, you're going to focus on your back and your biceps. Day 3, that's when you want to give attention to your legs. And then you can end with your shoulders. So when you do those 4 basic muscle groups, you're pretty much covering your entire body for that particular week. Now, some of you are asking yourself, well, where do I do my abs? Or when am I going to do my cardio? Or my low intensity steady state cardio? That is something that you're going to have to incorporate within those 4 days. Now, I'm not asking you to perform those workouts 4 days consecutively. I think the key trick here is to go ahead and start off with 2 days on. You take a rest day in between, and then you can go ahead and do the 2 additional days, and then you'll have 2 days off, and you start off the routine once more for the amount of weeks that you choose. So let's just say 4 to 6. And when you do that, that is going to set you up just for a basic routine. Okay guys, so let's dive into a few common mistakes that most beginners pretty much make when they start off in the gym. I would say the biggest and most obvious one always comes down to ego lifting. What I mean by that is simply lifting weights that are just way too heavy for what you can do. So you always want to start off with some light weights, and then you want to progressively increase those weights, never sacrificing your form. So make sure that you're aware of your posture, your positioning when you are lifting your weights, because we want to always avoid injury. Another thing that comes up as a common mistake is not keeping track of your progress. I think that you should always have, at the very minimum, at the very least, a pen and paper with your exercises listed, with the amount of sets and reps attributed to each, in order to keep track of the progress over time. So this will help ensure that you are actually progressively overloading, and it's also a source of motivation because you can see over time how your progress is going. Okay guys, so another common mistake that's encountered in the gym is not performing any warm-up sets. This can be very dangerous because it can lead to injury, obviously. Warm-up sets are very, very easy to perform. I would say at the very least, start off with 50% of your working weight. So for example, if you're going to be doing some tricep push downs, if your working set is 90 pounds, well, you may want to start with a few warm-up sets, maybe 1 or 2. Your first warm-up set can be the 50% mark, so half of 90 is 45, do 45 pounds, and then you can head off to your working set. You can even do a second warm-up set where it could be 3/4, so you're looking around between 70, 75 pounds before actually hitting that 90-pound working set. So that's something that you want to keep in mind, because we always want to focus on not injuring ourselves and preparing the muscle before you're going to go ahead and perform that working set. So another common mistake that beginners encounter in the gym are distractions. These distractions come in many forms, and this will essentially take away the focus from your workout session. So a prime example of a distraction is cell phones. You may decide while you're in your workout during your rest period to just pick up your phone and naturally open a social media app, for instance, a TikTok or Instagram, and then you start scrolling and scrolling without paying any attention to how much time that has passed. Another distraction would be, for instance, you deciding to chat it up with some friends. Maybe you see a buddy of yours walk in the gym and you're like, oh, let me go say hi to so-and-so. It's been so long. I mean, we could maybe catch up. But then again, this is in between your working sets. So this will essentially take away from your workout session because it prolongs the rest more than it needs to be, and it can actually lengthen your workout. And that sometimes may not be what we want to do. So that's something to keep in mind as a mistake. So in the next video, I'm gonna show you 6 key exercises that you'll need to master in order to achieve muscle growth. Thanks again for joining me, everyone. See you soon. Cheers.